And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off.
Go ahead and say it, Ed. Go Tigers!
When I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
You like that? You like that?
F it. Jamar's down there somewhere.
New Orleans Saints select Marcus Davenport.
No!
Splash Brothers. Yeah.
It's playoff. Get going, Brace.
The playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs.
If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Welcome back to Dirty Boot Sports Chasing the Trophy Fantasy Football Cast. I'm your host, Derek Sanders, here with Josh Williams, one of the original Dirty Boot boys. The gang is back together again, finally. We've been doing a lot of solo pods, just life's been catching up with us, and we're finally coordinating it and getting it where we can get together and talk some fantasy football. And we got a pretty good slate coming up on this pod. We're going to go over a little bit of a Week 10 recap Josh is going to hit us with, and then we're also going to roll into start, sit, sleepers for Week 11. And then I've also got a little news updates, just a few things that have been going on, not too much. And we're just going to go ahead and get kicked off. It's going to be a little bit of a longer one, but hopefully not too long. And we're going to go ahead and get rolling, Josh. I'm going to let you take it off with a recap of Week 10.
Yeah, I'm just going to go over some of the high spots for Week 10. I didn't do a full pod on that this week, but there was a few guys I wanted to talk about. And, heck, we'll start it out with quarterback and Justin Fields. Man, I mean, back-to-back monster games. We can talk about him now as a top 5, maybe top 3 for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Bears
He's number
fans
4 right now. So.
Yep. Bears fans have to be excited about the future with this guy. I mean, and for those that picked him up, possible league winner, I mean, if you was hurting at quarterback and you picked him up, your team changed. And you don't usually see a waiver wire pickup from a quarterback this late in the year that does this kind of fantasy impact. But, man, he has shown out. So he had 147 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns and 167 yards passing with 2 touchdowns. I mean, just crazy game. That's back-to-back, had over 70 points back-to-back games. I mean, it's unbelievable what he's been able to do after the start he had. And you got to give a lot of credit to the Bears with sticking with him and the coaches making adjustments every week. You just seen him get a little more work every week, and then they're like, well, let's just let him do his thing. And he started running, and man, so
and not only that, but just coming in with the worst offensive line in the NFL. Like, let's keep that in mind. I think they were rated for the worst. Like, the Steelers were second worst, and then the Bears were the worst offensive line rated in the NFL coming into the season. And him doing what he's doing, I mean, exactly what you said, Josh.
Well, they got a lot of picks and a lot of money. So I can promise you next year their offensive line is going to look totally different.
No doubt.
So he's going to be a top 3-4 quarterback pick next year.
Definitely. I definitely see him around that Kyler Murray. You know, I don't think he's going to be up there with Mahomes and Allen yet. He's going to have to do it another year. But the Kyler Murray, I don't even know if he'll be there with Lamar Jackson. I'm sure there'll be a lot of truthers out there that jump on him that early. But right now, I see him in that Kyler Murray, maybe Dak Prescott, because he's kind of turning around this year range. Just one more year. If he does it again, I mean, I think you got to put him up there with Mahomes and Allen. You know,
but there'll be a lot of people
he's producing.
There'll be a lot of people reaching next year. I can promise you.
And really, I think you got to say there's 3 up there because the way Hurts has been performing too. And they're very similar type the way they're playing the game right now. Fields and Hurts, you know.
Yeah.
But that's just what I'm seeing, and it's good to see some younger quarterbacks getting in there because you got some of these older ones exiting, and we're starting to see an emergence of some of these younger guys coming out.
Well, the difference I see in Fields and Hurts is the team because Chicago's down and they're having to make something happen where the Eagles, except for this past week, they've been up in most games, just kind of coasted. So he hadn't got the production in the second half where
That's
Fields is getting that production the whole game, trying to come back at the end. And it might be the same way next year.
Could be.
But anyway, enough about him. We could probably go on for a whole pod on him. We'll go over a couple of running backs from this past week. Jonathan Taylor.
Yep.
He looked like he was back.
New coaching change seemed to help him out a lot.
So Jeff Saturday's coaching debut, he was from Indy. He's a former Hall of Famer at center. So he had that offensive line looking better. And a big surprise, we had Matt Ryan back at quarterback, which, they were saying, when he took over the job that he wasn't going to change quarterbacks, but seems like at the last minute he changed.
I don't think it took much vision to see that Sam Ehlinger was not going to be your guy. And it's just between Matt Ryan and Nick Foles. I mean,
I think he made the right decision.
I do too.
But I do remember them asking him that question a day or two after he took the job, and he said Ehlinger is our quarterback. But you see what happened whenever the game started.
Well, he was their quarterback when they asked him that question, and then he went right after that and changed him on the depth chart.
Well, that's true. He didn't lie.
Yeah, that's right.
They only sacked Matt Ryan once, which a big difference.
And coming into the season, this was supposed to be one of the best offensive lines in football, and who not to shore up the offensive line, but one of the greatest offensive linemen in history, definitely, snapped to one of the greatest quarterbacks in the history, Peyton Manning, for who knows how long. And you can't tell me that he ain't calling Peyton Manning every now and then. Hey, what do you think about this? Hey, what do you think about this? What'd you see on this? Oh, I mean, I don't care what anybody says about this coaching hire. And he had a clip. One of our Dirty Boot Sports podcasters, Kyle Horton, shared a clip on Facebook about whenever they were asking him about his hire and if they thought he was qualified. And he kind of went on a mini rant about not caring what anybody thinks because of he's played with this many Hall of Famers. He's in the Hall of Fame, this many Super Bowl rings. He's been through it all, and he's played with it all. He's seen it all. And whenever you have that experience in the league for as long as he had, it's not just that. You have that many contacts. If you need help with something, or if you don't see, it's networking. You know what I'm saying? You can't find that. You could interview 100 coaches, but they're not going to have that. And anyway, I completely commend the Colts for reaching outside the box, and going in a different direction. And us as Saints fans can definitely, I guess somewhat understand, because we stayed inside the box, went with a prior head coach and stayed inside of our system, and look how well that's working out for us this year. So anyway, I'm gonna get off my soapbox on that, but I think the Colts did the right thing, and I think this team's going to be on the upswing because they definitely have the talent. Unfortunately for them, it's a little too late for their defense because they've had some season-ending injuries on their defensive side, and I think that's going to hurt them a little bit. But I think the offense is definitely going to make a comeback this year.
Well, you was talking about Saturday, and one thing else I like what he said is he's like, I'm going to give it my all and everything. But he also said, hey, if I'm not the man for the job and I don't do good, get rid of me.
That's right.
He didn't, I like the hire too. And, offensive line, if they can get it going with this team, they're going to be a lot better.
Yeah.
And they don't have a bad schedule. So,
that's right.
So they, they could win, some games. It's going to be hard to knock Tennessee out of the division. I think now.
I was going to I would go talk about that when we get done here in just a little bit, but you can go ahead.
Anyway, so he had 22 carries, 147 yards, and a touchdown. That looks like the guy we remember from last year.
That's exactly right.
He busted off a big 66-yard long touchdown. I mean, I like him for the rest of the year. I think we're going to see better things from him. I think he bounces back the second half of the season.
Yep.
And those guys that took him early. He may not be the number one pick, but I think he comes around and ends up doing a lot better at the second half.
That's right.
And also, I was going to throw in James Conner. He looked like he was back. Looks like he's finally healthier. Ribs are a hard thing to get over, but once they heal up, it's not a lower leg injury.
That's right.
Which is really hard to come back from. So he had 69 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns, and 3 catches for 17.
Looked like his stat line from last year.
I was just fixing to say he was always getting those touchdowns. His other stuff would be all right, and every once in a while he'd have a breakout game, but that looked about like him. And the Cardinals seem to think that he's back because what did they do? They cut Eno Benjamin, which I could not believe. That was a big surprise. I thought he filled in pretty good for Conner when he was out. Right. He had a huge game against New Orleans, if you remember.
That's right.
I don't know. Is there something that happened
Only thing
there?
I can think, because James Conner got 96% of the plays against the Rams, and the only thing I can think is maybe Eno Benjamin felt like he earned more playing time because they cut him after that game. And maybe that was the Cardinals' way of saying, we're going to run this team how we want to run this team, whether you think you earned more playing time or not. And I mean, who knows? The truth's not going to come out until maybe after the season, because Eno Benjamin, I got a feeling he most professional football players, they're not going to be talking about anything like that during the middle of the season. They're going to wait till it's over.
No, because you're wanting a job, and you don't want to be the guy that talks bad about a team. And I think he got picked up already, didn't he?
By the Texans, which was a surprise to me. But I really think that's just a depth chart move by the Texans. I think they're getting ready for the exit of Rex Burkhead, who's the elder statesman of a majority of running backs in the league. With his age, and I think he's going to be Rex Burkhead's replacement eventually. I think that's what that move was all about. I mean, Rex Burkhead's 32 years old, for Pete's sake.
And this could be for next year also,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know about you, but just watching them, I mean, Dameon Pierce seems like their guy.
No, no doubt.
Unless now they're trying to be ready if something does happen. The way he runs fairly violently. So, and those guys tend to be more injury prone than others, but I don't think anybody's taking any more snaps away from him than they the coaching staff's going to allow. So
no, but if you could have somebody that could come in and give him a break, say 20% of the snaps, just to keep him off the field all the time, and Burkhead's not the guy to have in there. Like you said, he's old. He's on the end of his career. He may be retiring. Who knows?
And honestly, like you just said, that Pierce has been doing what he's doing, and he has not played more than 70-something% of the snaps all year. And let's see, the last 3 weeks, he's been anywhere from 72 to 78%. And then week 7 against Vegas, he still had a decent game, 52% of the snaps. I mean, he's getting a few catches. Pretty much if he's in there, it seems like he's getting the ball, honestly. And but he's doing what he's doing and playing 70-something% of the snaps. So he's the number 17th running back in standard leagues and 14th in PPR, and he's not played more than 70-something% of snaps as a running back. I mean, that's like ultimate efficiency right there. And they're just trying to find somebody that can come in that other 20-something% and supplement him with their most efficiency. And honestly, Eno Benjamin, whenever he gets around that many plays, he can make some stuff happen.
He's fast.
So I think that's pretty big. So I'm gonna let
you
get back to go ahead.
Are the Cardinals? They got that rookie they drafted, Ingram. Are they wanting him to get more touches to see what they got in him?
Well, they definitely didn't against the Rams, that's for sure, because that's what I was looking at whenever I was going over waivers and stuff. I was like, they must give him more. Nope. He got 1 carry, 7% of the snaps. But he's a big back. He's 6 foot, 215. So young guy, 23 years old. So he's a bigger back. A little bit more of a compliment. Honestly, he's a little bit more like James Conner, because James Conner 6'1", 233. And
a ball of muscle.
Yeah. So, but I think they're comfortable with him.
And they got the former LSU board, Darrell Williams, on IR.
Yeah.
Is he getting closer to coming back? Maybe. Who knows?
Let's see. I'll tell you right now. He's expected to return from IR at some point. This was 2 days ago. Let's see. He's placed on IR after week 8. Eligible to return in week 12. So I guess that's what they're looking at. Sounds like they're eyeing the return whenever he comes back. So
so that makes more sense right there. You got a rookie that you want to get in. You got your other backup coming back off IR. Somebody's got to.
That's right.
Get cut. So I guess that might be where they're at. All right. Well, let's go on to wide receiver. And when I looked at this, I was kind of surprised. I expected Justin Jefferson to be at the top, but actually CeeDee Lamb was the number one wide receiver. Man, he did. So he had 15 targets, which is crazy number, 11 catches, 150 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And I think this is what we were expecting preseason from this guy. They got rid of Amari Cooper. He was going to be the guy in Dallas. Dak gets hurt. Now Dak's back, and he's definitely looking for him. That combination could be deadly the rest of the season.
I will say I was thinking that also, but he is one of the most popular trade high candidates right now because a lot of the analysts are predicting they think that this is going to be his best game of the year. And if you could flip him for one of these other, like a Tyreek Hill or, some of these other top 3 or 4 wide receivers, they think you're going to come out better. Now, not saying CeeDee Lamb's not going to be probably top 10 wide receiver, but they just think this is going to be his top, like this is his ceiling right here. And they don't think that there's going to be that many more of those games because he does have a fairly tough schedule coming up. He's got Minnesota, which is okay, but he's going to I think that's where Patrick Peterson's at right now, if I'm not mistaken. And then he's got the Giants, who have like the number 2 or 3 secondary in the league. Then he's got the Colts, who have like the number 3 or 4 secondary in the league. Then he's got Houston, and their secondary is their best part of their defense. Then he's got Jacksonville, who's okay, but then he goes to Philadelphia. He's got Darius Slay. He's going to be going up against Philadelphia. And then he's got a better matchup at the end of the season, week 17, 18 against Tennessee and Washington. So that's why, I love seeing and if he does keep going to him, we're talking 15 targets this week. If he gets 15 targets, I don't care what anybody says. He's going to be a top 5 wide receiver. But they're thinking that he's not going to get these looks for several weeks coming up because of his tougher schedule. But he did have a tough schedule against Green Bay because they got one of the top five or 6 corners in the league. So, who knows? But if you got him, you're happy Dak's back and you're happy he put up that production. That's for sure.
Well, and I had this wrote down, Zeke wasn't playing.
That's
and
right.
We know they love to run the ball. So they're, and the game script, Green Bay come back on them. They had to throw the ball a lot more. So I still think he has a pretty good rest of the year, but I'm like you. I think these numbers are inflated some. I don't think he does quite. I don't see him getting 15 targets on a team that's going to run the ball a lot. But you got to be happy if you have him because he's not had anything this close.
He's still going to be a top 10, 12 wide receiver every week. Personally, I think, you could do worse.
All right. And number 2, my man from LSU, Justin Jefferson, had probably the best catch I've ever seen in the NFL, going up one hand, taking the ball out of the defender's hands and coming down with it on the side of his leg to hold on to it on a big 4th down play. It was just crazy. It just doesn't get much better than that. He was the difference in the ball game. Vikings come from behind to beat the Super Bowl favorite Bills. What a game. What a performance. 10 catches, 193 yards, and a touchdown.
That's right.
And I think he's the best wide receiver in the NFL right now.
There's no
especially
doubt.
With Kupp
going down, I don't even think it's a contest, honestly. But, we say that, but it's hard to ignore what Tyreek Hill is doing right now. Number one wide receiver in PPR right now, which is crazy to me. But I think Jefferson ends up passing him down you can see that production from Jefferson starting to pick up over the last couple weeks. And he's already passed his bye, which Tyreek Hill's on a bye this week. But which is probably another reason Tyreek Hill's rated over him, because Justin Jefferson's got a bye week with a 0 in there, and Tyreek Hill is having that this week. So I would imagine that Justin Jefferson's got a good chance to pass him up this week. But you're right. I mean, he definitely looks like, and Kirk Cousins, I mean, he's kind of zoning in, and he's got some pretty tough. He's got some decent. He's kind of got a mixed schedule coming up. But I think you're right. I think we're looking at probably the best wide receiver in the league right here.
Oh, he definitely, and it's good to see from a LSU guy too.
That's right.
And I will talk about one other guy. Me and you were big on him coming into the year. He hasn't done anything, but the last 2 games, he's come around, 4 catches, 74 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
So he's had 5 touchdowns in the last 3 games.
Yep.
Fields seems like he has confidence in him.
Yep.
With a down year for tight ends for most of the part, other than the top 2 or 3, could be a great pickup for the rest of the year.
Yep.
And several tight ends are hurt right now.
Oh yeah, it was a devastating week. I talked about that on my waiver pod for tight ends. I mean, there was, I think out of the top 10, I think like 5 more went down with injury this week. And a couple of them are season enders, so they ain't coming back. And
yeah,
you're exactly right.
All right. Well, that's about it for the. I just wanted to touch on a couple of guys.
Okay.
Didn't want to go too much in depth, but those guys, I think not only did they have big games, but I think the way we're looking at them might have changed too.
All right. Well, we're gonna get started on some news here in just a second. All right. So we're gonna talk about some news updates. Just a few things. We're recording this on Friday after Thursday night football. And I don't know if some of y'all watched or not, but if you didn't, you missed the demise of Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers. About the only thing positive that came out of Green Bay last night was Christian Watson catching 2 touchdown passes. And he only had, I believe, 2 catches on the night for 22 yards and 2 touchdown passes on 4 targets.
Did he have 3 last game?
I believe so. I will let you know.
Since he's played on Thursday, he had 5 touchdowns in 1 week, basically.
That is actually, no, I did see that graphic earlier today. He has 5 touchdowns in 4 days. That is correct. Yes. Yeah, because he had last week, he had 8 targets, 4 catches, 107 yards, 3 touchdowns. And then I lied. Last night, he had 6 targets, 4 catches, 48 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So, I mean, he's about the only one really getting a lot of production out of that team. But Aaron Rodgers did not look sharp. Actually missed several wide open wide receivers. They were making note of that on some shows this morning. Very uncharacteristic of him, especially when they had a chance to kind of come back. Tennessee was honestly, Derrick Henry just took over Tennessee's offense last night. Really looked very Derrick Henry.
I thought Tannehill looked really good last night.
He did. He did, getting the ball to his playmakers for sure. But Derrick Henry, typical 28 rushing yards, 28 rushes, 87 yards, a touchdown, and then 2 catches for 45 yards, and then he had a passing touchdown also. So he had a really nice screenplay. I'm still baffled that this team does not screen the ball to Derrick Henry more. I mean, what more does a safety and cornerback fear than seeing Derrick Henry in the open space on the outside? I mean, and it's so easy just to swing the ball out to him out there on a screen and let him go to work on those smaller cornerbacks and safeties. But anyway, neither
I think their team, they just try to pound that defensive line. early and just pound them, to get that breakout run in the second half. I think that's just the way they do. They're a good football team. I wouldn't call them a great fantasy other than Derek, but as far as I like the coach there. I think he's a great coach. He's turned this franchise around.
That's right. And honestly, kind of getting back to that, right now, Derrick Henry's the only guy. But last night, Trey Burks is finally back. He was on IR with a foot injury, had a little bit, played a little bit against Denver. But last night really kind of broke out against Green Bay. And it's crazy because he put this production up. He only played 50% of plays last night, but 8 targets, 7 catches for 111 yards. And honestly, if you watched him play last night, he looked like a dominant wide receiver personally.
So did he catch that long one at the end of the game?
He did. He did.
Because I missed it. I walked out the room, and when I walked back in, I'm like, why are they on the goal line?
He did.
And I knew somebody had caught a long one.
And I was watching him, and he was getting great separation, and he even looked like one of those bully wide receivers. One that really, you don't see a lot of. A.J. Brown's one of those. DK Metcalf's one of those that can kind of push a corner or a safety around a little bit. And, he's 6'2", 225, but he's solid muscle. And a very stocky wide receiver. And, Tannehill, like you just said, looked better. And if Treylon Burks is getting this production out of 50% of pass plays, and he's got, a couple rough games, but he's got a fairly decent little schedule coming up. He's got Cincinnati, at Philadelphia you don't like, Jacksonville's okay, at the Chargers, which is a little bit better matchup right now as they're so banged up. Then he's got Houston at home. So if him and Ryan Tannehill kind of get on the same page, he could be somebody you pick up and throw in your flex toward the end of the year that could be really productive. And but 7 catches, 111 yards, and I think, they drafted him high. He's had some injuries. It's taken him a little time to get going, but last night he looked for real. And if he's out there, I'd be really tempted to go and pick him up. I don't think that was a fluke, personally. And not to mention, he's going to get a lot better opportunities because everybody's going to be so focused on Derrick Henry because that's the main point of their offense. And I think it'll help him.
Well, with the wide receivers getting hurt and just everything, he'd be a good guy to have on your bench. He's probably not nobody you want to play every week because I think he's kind of going to be boom or bust because they run the ball so much. But if you hit with him, or if they get in a game where they, got to throw the ball more.
Well, hey, they ran the ball like 35 times last night, and he still had 8 targets and 7 catches. So
that's true.
Honestly, when he's in, and that's only 50% of the plays. So now I will say it's starting to seem like he's only out there on passing plays. But I think that's going to slowly change, as we go. They're probably trying to ease him back in. He's still getting his legs underneath him for football shape and is, after coming off the injured reserve. But I think he could be for real. And like you said, I think he's definitely somebody you might want to throw on your bench and hang on to for some good matchups.
Well, and it don't look like Woods is going to pan out this year.
No, he's there. He's that veteran blocking wide receiver back. Exactly what I was worried he would be coming into the season. Veteran blocking wide receiver. Probably going to get you 3 or 4 catches for 30 or 40 yards every game. But maybe
you can't start him in fantasy.
Yeah, and he's going to have a touchdown about every 6 games. It's not somebody you can rely on. And really, honestly, you're probably better off streaming somebody off the waiver that has a good matchup, personally.
Well, you're better playing his teammate, Mertz.
That's right.
Who's got the better upside.
Yes.
Looking for upside.
That's right. Anyway, moving on from that, Titans, they look better. I don't think they're a Super Bowl contender, but they look like where they were the last couple years. They're going to make the playoffs. They'll probably win a game, and then they'll lose either in the division series or the AFC, NFC, or the AFC championship. One of the two. They
look like the team we seen last year. Whoever somebody thought was going to fall off, but really haven't.
No, and I think
they look just as good.
And I think that's a testament to their coaching.
I definitely agree.
Vrabel,
old school football.
That's exactly right.
Old school football right there.
And then last but not least on the updates and news, we heard late yesterday, Browns and Bills game will be moved from Buffalo to the Dome in Detroit. This is huge for fantasy because anybody that was worried about the fantasy
blizzard
impact of the blizzard, the 6 foot of snow that's been projected over the last couple of days, more snow than I seen a graphic yesterday or day before. The snow was going to be taller than Nick Chubb and Devin Singletary, so they would have just been under the snow running. Not really, but anyway, the game's been moved to the Dome in Detroit at Ford Field, so nobody has to worry about the weather. And this is great news for their kickers also. That just adds 2 kickers that are going to be in the Dome and probably a fairly high-scoring game. So that's a big news update.
Yeah, which wouldn't been if it would have been played outdoors in a blizzard. Well, it's good for a fantasy standpoint for sure, but I also believe it's good for the Bills because I actually think this game might have been in the favor of Cleveland
because they can
run.
That's exactly right. So I think it would have helped the
Bills cannot lose another game.
No.
Back to back.
Definitely not. But that's pretty much going to wrap up some news updates. We're just going to jump right on into our start sit sleepers for week 11. We're going to start off at quarterback for starts, and these are quarterback for us. It's going to be a quarterback outside the top 5 because anybody inside the top 5, you're pretty much guaranteed to start, and a few other guys you're pretty much going to start also. But on these bye weeks, these might be some guys that you might be contemplating. But for me, it's a guy that really hasn't had it going the last couple weeks, but I think he's going to have it in what seems to be one of the more popular rivalry games in the last couple of years. That's going to be Justin Herbert at home against Kansas City. As everybody knows, Kansas City's been, putting points up left and right, but their defense has really been lacking. 28th against quarterbacks. The rivalry has just kind of blossomed over the last couple of years between Mahomes and Herbert. Especially, the last game you seen Herbert in there with broken ribs, trying to finish the game, doing whatever he could do. He's going to be psyched up and ready to play this game. It's going to be on prime time Sunday night. And not only that, Justin Herbert's getting some of his weapons back, I believe.
Yep.
They're
I think that might be
Mike
the biggest
Williams
thing.
Yep, expecting Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, at least one of them to be back because I know they're both practicing limited right now. I have not seen a practice update today, but I expect them to at least be somewhat limited back, and that's going to help them out. Now, I don't know
if they can just get
Gerald
one of
Everett's
them
gonna
back.
be out. That's exactly right.
Just one of them. Because they've got a great number 3. Yeah.
Yep, Josh Palmer's been helping supplement, so is DeAndre Carter. So I think Justin Herbert's in a prime position to succeed this week against Kansas City, and that's going to be my start at quarterback. What about you, Josh? Who you got at quarterback that you really like this week?
I'm going with old Dak Prescott. He's actually snuck up with 2 pretty good games on us.
Yes, he has.
The last and he's playing Minnesota. Should be a shootout.
Yep.
He's found that connection with Lamb. They were looking great. I just think that he's going to break out with a pretty good game, or just basically continue what he started since he's come back.
Yep. I like that pick a lot, honestly. And the way to attack Minnesota right now is through the air. Their defensive front's been a lot better in linebacking core. And honestly, why not? Schultz is back. Lamb, and he's been doing good. Lamb is looking great. Michael Gallup, it's just a matter of time till he starts getting worked back into the fold, And that's what's been crazy is because, a lot of people were thinking he could be a number 1 at another team coming into the season. And he's over here.
Screen pass to Pollard.
And then Gallup's over here just getting the scraps. And and he's finally worked back to around 80-something% of the plays. So I think this is a great position for Prescott to succeed. And I like that pick a lot. Moving on to our sit at quarterback. And for me this week, it's going to be Kyler Murray. I've said this in the past, I don't like picking guys that have an injury designation coming into the week. But this really, to me, has a lot more to do with Kyler Murray and the dysfunction of their offense and their coach in general. It seems like every time we watch Kyler Murray play, there's some kind of a temper tantrum or an argument on the sideline. He's not on the same same page with his wide receivers. And then not only that, they're playing against San Francisco. San Francisco, number 7th in the league against quarterbacks. He's got the hamstring injury. Even if he does play, I don't like him. For some reason, if he doesn't play, I'm going to give you a second guy I don't like this week. And he's actually ranked. I was shocked at how high he was ranked, but I guess because of all the buys. But that's Taylor Heineke. Taylor Heineke this week coming in was ranked. Let me see, and I'll let you know. Let's see. Messed it up right there. He was number 12th. Taylor Heineke ranked 12th this week, because he's playing Houston. But what I was talking about a little bit earlier, and the way to attack Houston is not through the air, it's on the ground. And I know Taylor Heineke's been playing hot, but I don't like him this week against Houston either. So for some reason, Kyler Murray's out. There's another guy that I really don't like this week. Honestly, a lot of quarterbacks have a lot of really good matchups this week, and it was kind of hard for me to nail down two that I really didn't like. But Kyler Murray, Taylor Heineke, didn't really like either one of those guys. So those are my sits. What about you, Josh? Who are you not too crazy about this week?
Well, can I pick Aaron Rodgers?
yeah. Well,
because I probably would have if he wouldn't have been playing on Thursday.
No doubt.
But I guess I'll go with this guy that was seen crying after the game last week, and I believe he might be crying after this game. I'm going to go Derek Carr against a good Broncos defense. They haven't gave up much to quarterbacks this year. He's just not had a good year, and I don't see it getting much better this week.
Yep. And honestly, I really wanted to pick him. I really did, Josh. I looked at him. I wanted to pick him at Denver, but I picked him last week as a sit, and he went out and put up 27 points against the Colts defense on me. And I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to leave it alone for now, because if I pick him 2 weeks in a row and he goes off again, I'm just like, I got to leave it be. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to let that one go. And I really don't like – I like Kyler Murray even less personally this week if he does play. And, heck, looks like they done took Kyler Murray out of the rankings now. And I literally
so he's not even going to play?
I literally did this like 4 hours ago, and he was ranked. And then they said he's going to be a game-time decision. So it really depends on how his Modern Warfare tournament goes Saturday night. If he wins, then I would think he's got a good chance to play. But if he loses, he's going to be in such a bad mood that he's probably going to sit out.
Well, I've seen a commercial for a new video game. Well, I don't know. I don't play these, but so I assumed he would probably be out for a couple of weeks till he got used to playing this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think it's the new Modern Warfare. One of the Modern Warfare.
It was definitely something like that.
Yeah.
Call of Duty, that's what it was.
Yeah,
the new Call of Duty come out.
Well,
so
and like I said, he's probably going to be playing in some kind of a tournament or something Saturday, because that's a big time to play. And if he wins, then he'll be feeling good, and he'll probably suit up. And if he loses, he's gonna be in a bad mood and decide he's not going to play. So who knows? But he's not ranked right now. So mine could be Taylor Heineke if he ain't, and if he does, I still don't like him, just for the fact that he's banged up, and the hamstring injury really limits what he's really good at, and that's running the ball. So that's where I sit with that. Moving on to our sleepers at quarterback. Mine is really fairly deep, honestly, way down there. But I'm going to throw out Kenny Pickett this week. And there's not a lot on paper that says this is going to be a really good pick. But honestly, he just looked a lot better last week against New Orleans. He had a really tough matchup before his bye against Philadelphia. Didn't have a great game. The week before that, he was at Miami. He did okay, but had a lot of turnovers. And then finally, he has a game against New Orleans. Didn't really turn the ball over, but didn't do too much else other than rush the ball well. But he passed for 60% completion percentage against New Orleans, which is – it's okay. It's bottom of the barrel, but it seems like he's getting better. And they're getting more of a rhythm. Jaylen Warren's helping him out a lot more. I don't know. It's just a gut feeling for me on this one. It's at home against Cincinnati, who's probably going to be putting up some points. They're coming off a bye. even though Pittsburgh's defense is looking a little bit better. But I feel like Cincinnati's defense is getting DJ Reader back, who's an excellent run stopper. So I don't know. I just kind of think that Kenny Pickett's going to have to throw the ball a little bit more and maybe use his legs a little bit more, which is another great thing about Kenny Pickett, is that he rushes a fair amount also. So I think that he could be a little sleeper out there with a lot of good quarterbacks on bye. The last couple weeks, eight rushes last week and then 7 the week before his bye. So I think he's going to have a good chance to rush the ball a little bit also. So I like Kenny Pickett playing at home against Cincinnati this week. So who do you like as a sleeper this week, Josh?
That might be considered a deep sleeper.
Yeah, he is a deep sleeper. He's way down there, but I feel like he's one of the up and comers.
Yeah, honestly, I did not like anybody this week outside the top.
Yeah,
this was hard.
It was tough. That's why I dropped way.
It was really hard
because
I heard the news about the Bills game being moved, so I'm gonna throw Jacoby Brissett out there.
I looked at him. I really did.
Before they changed, I wouldn't want to even touch him, but they're going to have to throw the ball to keep up with the Bills, I believe. He's looks like he's getting Njoku back, who was one of his favorite targets.
Yep.
Donovan Peoples-Jones is
stepping up.
He's stepping up, so he's got some weapons now. And went in what I call a very weak week for quarterbacks behind the top ones. Why not just take a shot at him?
And also something that a lot of people don't realize, that the last couple of weeks he's been running the ball a little bit more. Week before his bye against Cincinnati, ran the ball 6 carries, only 12 yards, but had a touchdown. And then a rushing touchdown. Then last week against Miami, ran the ball 7 times for 40 yards. So picking up a little bit of extra points to supplement him with his legs also. So that could be a big help. But let's move on to our running backs. And these are our starts at running backs. We each pick 2 starts at running backs, and they're outside the top 10 ranks for this week. And then my first one is going to be one that's coming off a kind of a down game, and that's going to be Miles Sanders playing at Indianapolis, whose defense has been taking a couple big hits with injuries the last couple weeks. They've had a couple key guys go on IR, and they're already the 23rd against running backs. And honestly, it's just Indianapolis has got a decent secondary. Philadelphia's got a great offensive line and loves to run the ball. And that's something else. Miles Sanders has a really solid rushing floor. Like he gets the ball, I think he's had at least 16 carry. Let me see. Attempts right here. 1, 2, 3, at least 15. At least 15 carries, like 6 out of the last 7 weeks. So, and then he's getting a fair amount. He had a touchdown 3 out of the last 4 weeks. So he's getting some goal line carries. Didn't have a great week against Washington last week, but before that, he was pretty consistent. And
he's
I like
quietly had a really good year.
Yep. Number 15 in standard, number 19 in PPR. I think he bounces back this week against the Colts, and in a week where there's a lot of really decent running backs on bye. I like Miles Sanders this week at Indianapolis in the Dome. And then my second running back that I really like this week is going to be Antonio Gibson at Houston. You heard me talk about it earlier. The way to attack Houston is with the running game, and Antonio Gibson is kind of their versatile back there. Brian Robinson's there. He's getting the bulk of the carries, but Antonio Gibson's getting anywhere from 10 to 15 carries, and then he's getting 3 to 4 catches every game. So you're getting the best of both worlds. And Houston is 32nd against running backs in the league in fantasy, the worst team as far as defensively against running backs. So the best for a running back in fantasy. And I like Robinson also, but I think Gibson is going to be the one that's going to benefit the most just because of his versatility in the offense and the way they're going to have to focus on their running backs, getting them the ball out of the backfield. So I like Antonio Gibson this week against Houston. So, and then that's my 2 starts at running back. Who do you want to start that you really like at running back this week, Josh?
Well, I had Brian Robinson.
Yep.
I really
like him.
like him.
I like
think
both of them.
last week against the Eagles, I thought he looked really good. He ran the
did.
ball really hard
And a lot.
He looks like he's more explosive than he was the first couple of.
Yep.
And I know that's probably getting healthier and healthier because even though he come back after those gunshots, that wasn't 100% healed up.
Yep.
And it looks like he's finally getting some more of that explosiveness they seen in the preseason.
Yep.
Like you said, Houston is terrible against running backs, probably the worst.
They both can be very viable starters for sure.
I actually look for Robinson to have his best game of the year this week. And I like Antonio Gibson, who is actually scoring more points a week than Robinson. But I think Robinson, if I read this right, he's had like 17 carries 3 of the last 5 games.
Yep.
If he gets 17 carries against a Houston team, he's going to be pushing 100 yards and probably a touchdown.
That's right. Last week, 26 carries on 86 yards and a touchdown. 26 last week. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for him to get another 26 this week against Houston, honestly.
He should get at least 20. And if you get 20 against Houston, you're going to break the 100-yard mark.
And probably a touchdown.
Yeah.
So
I like both those. And I guess I'm kind of hoping Robinson has a good game because I got to play him this week.
Yeah. I think he's got a good shot.
The other one I got is David Montgomery. I've never been high on this guy, but with Herbert out, he's going to get a full workload against Atlanta, who gives up a lot of points to running backs.
Yep.
Chicago's a run-first team. I believe I read where the running backs, this ain't including the quarterback, just the running backs get at least around 26 carries a game. If he gets 26 carries or close to 26 carries, I mean, he's got to put up some numbers, you would think.
Yep.
So, you're going to have him at least 4 weeks
without
Herbert. So if you had him, I mean, it was kind of hit or miss before, but I think you can start him now, at least until Herbert comes back.
Well, and I think the reason they put him on injured reserve, because right now you got 3 weeks and then they have a bye in week 14. So I would imagine they're looking at Herbert coming back week 15 at home against Philadelphia. So they got Atlanta this week, Jets, then Green Bay, then a bye, and then Philadelphia. So I mean, you got 3 solid weeks, and then I would imagine Herbert's back after that bye.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I figure he will be.
Yeah.
But that's 3 weeks you can start him.
That's exactly right. And then we're going to roll on to our sits at running back. These are running backs outside the top 10 that we don't like. This is one that's been on here several times this year, and I'm going to put him on here again. That's Najee Harris playing at home against Cincinnati. Honestly, he had the best game of his season last week, and it was like 9.9 points pretty much. He ran for 99 yards, no catches, no touchdowns, and looked
well. And
okay.
this ain't the same Saints defense we've been seeing over the last couple of years either that he ran on, because a lot of running backs have ran on the Saints this year.
And then he's going against a Cincinnati defense that is actually 9th against running backs, so not bad, and they're getting their best run stopper in DJ Reader back from injury this week. So that's just another punch in the gut for the run game of Pittsburgh. And I really personally think Jaylen Warren's going to have a better game than Najee Harris this week, just because his production, he's been a lot more efficient. He's caught the ball a lot better out of the backfield. I just don't like him this week. I think Kenny Pickett's going to have to do more with the ball than the running backs will. So I don't like Najee Harris this week. And, he really hadn't done anything all year as it is. Not to mention he's had some knee discomfort that they talked about after the game last week. They said it's not that big of a deal, but, I mean, why do you want to take a chance on him, exacerbating an injury while, if he is truly your future of your running back position there, why take a chance on him getting hurt anymore, personally? But Anyway, that's my sit at running back. Who do you not like this week at running back, Josh?
I had the same guy, Najee Harris. And even with him having his best game of the year, Warren still had 9 carries, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So even though he ran the ball better, he's still, giving up carries. Warren seems to be the guy that's getting the catches out of the backfield. He had so Najee Harris had no catches last week.
That's right.
Even though he had a better game, I'm not jumping on the bandwagon. Like I told you, before the podcast, I actually traded him this week while he was hot. I got rid of him. I traded him for DeAndre Hopkins.
Smart move.
And then turned around and picked up Jaylen Warren.
Yep.
So if Najee Harris goes down,
mm-hmm.
I've got a starter. So anyway, I haven't liked him all year. And you was talking about the future. Why would they? I don't know that he is the future.
Warren
actually to me looks like
I can't speak for them because I don't know, what they're thinking with him. But I'm like you. I'm not 100% sure he is. But
Warren looks better.
Warren looks great. And who's to say they don't end up just leaning toward a committee? You know what I'm saying?
I think that's what's going to end up happening. And then they just ride the hot hand.
That's right. All right. Moving on to our sleepers at running back. For me, my sleeper this week is a guy that old school, playing for a not too popular team right now, but I just feel like he's gonna get in the end zone, and I think he's getting some catch pass work, and that's gonna be old Latavius Murray. And I'm also rolling with the whole revenge game thing, playing at home against Vegas, who's the 29th against the running back. We all remember Latavius Murray played in Vegas for a fair amount of time. And then also it should be more of a heavy game run script just because it's in Denver. It's probably going to be really cold, not exactly the most popular place to throw the ball a lot this time of the year. Latavius Murray is splitting carries in the backfield with Melvin Gordon, but he's getting catches also out of the backfield. The last couple weeks, which has not been something Latavius Murray has been accustomed to in his career, but the last couple of weeks, at least a couple catches out of the backfield. Last week, only 9 carries for 24 yards, but 3 catches, 23 yards. And I feel like that he's got a good chance to get in the end zone this week. So, personally, I think that he's got they're going to ride that revenge game feel. Melvin Gordon just is kind of getting phased out. I don't know if he's just like halfway there, halfway not there. Who knows? That last week, 7 carries,
drop
24
him.
yards.
I'd say drop him.
He had more catches, but they're pretty much splitting their workload. And then you got, I know Melvin Gordon had more catches, but you got Chase Edmonds working into the mix. And who's to say, he had 2 carries and 1 catch. But I think Latavius Murray's going to be fired up playing at home against the Raiders, who's got a terrible run defense. And I think he's somebody you can plug in at the flex if you got a lot of people on bye. I like him this week at running back, kind of as a deep sleeper. So who do you like this week as a sleeper there, Josh?
So I like I'll just say Baltimore's running backs.
Yeah.
Gus Edwards, if he starts, we don't know yet. But if he don't start, if he don't start, I really like Kenyon Drake, when he's got the chance to start, has had big games.
Yep.
And they should have an easy win here. So even if Gus Edwards starts, I still think Drake gets a lot of work, especially at the end of the game.
Yep.
So I like the
I like both of
those
right
back
there, and that's I kind of didn't go with either one just because I don't know who's going to be playing. I feel like if Gus Edwards plays, he's going to get the bulk of the running back. I think he's going to get the bulk of it because they want him. You seen what happened when he come off injured reserve before. As soon as he come off, they just started handing the ball, and then he ended up getting hurt again. And
Baltimore's not a team that's not going to put anybody out there unless they're
right. They're ready to go. But yeah, so I like that pick a lot. I think whichever one's playing. If it's Edwards, I think you start him, and if it's not Edwards, I think you start Drake, exactly like you said. And
but I think Drake has a big game anyway, no matter, just because with Gus Edwards, still a little banged up. They're not going to just on a game they should win pretty easy. I don't think they're going to just push the carries on him. And they might. I mean, why not just set him one more week and let Drake? I mean, it ain't like you're missing out on a lot the way Drake's looked this year.
That's right. Moving on to our wide receiver starts. These are wide receivers outside the top 15. And then my number one is going to be Rondale Moore this week, playing at home against San Francisco, and they're the 18th against wide receivers. And honestly, that's really the only way to attack their defense. They're great against the running game. They're great against the tight end. So wide receivers, they're second, which they've lost a couple corners the last couple weeks to injury. And they've been putting points up. So I think it's something. I think Arizona's going to have to score the ball. And Zach Ertz is out, so that's more targets to spread around. I don't think Trey McBride comes in and takes over the Zach Ertz share. I just don't. Personally, he's too young. I think Ertz was just a better pass catcher and route runner than Trey McBride at this point, because Trey McBride's still kind of young and not very polished. I think Rondale Moore's in a perfect position to really excel against San Francisco this week. So I really like him this week. And then my second guy that I really like this week, it's going to be Tyler Boyd, really coming off kind of an underwhelming week before his bye with Jamar Chase out. And he was supposed to really have a big week against Carolina. And he ended up actually didn't even play as much of the snaps as he has been playing before Jamar Chase got hurt. I'm not 100% sure what happened with that. 6 targets, 5 catches, 44 yards, maybe game script, because we know Joe Mixon had the best game of his career that week. So maybe the game script had a lot to do with that. But I can promise you against Pittsburgh's defense with TJ Watt, Joe Mixon is not going to have the game that he had before his bye against Carolina. So I think Tyler Boyd's in for a bounce-back game. Pittsburgh's 31st against wide receiver. Chase is still out. And Pittsburgh's defense is getting healthier, like I just talked about. So I really think they're going to slow down the run a lot for Cincinnati. And I think they're going to lean on Joe Burrow to throw the ball a lot more. I think this could be one of them 50-pass games for Joe Burrow. And I think Tyler Boyd's going to be a big beneficiary of that this week. So he's my other start that I really like this week. So what's a couple wide receivers that you really like this week, Josh?
Well, believe it or not, I have Tyler Boyd.
Yep.
And another thing I read was he's actually from Pittsburgh. And they're playing in Pittsburgh.
And he played college at Pittsburgh.
He played at Pitt.
Did.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, on top of everything you said, playing back at home, they're gonna get him the ball this week. I have a feeling. Right. And then you got the Bengals, who had this loss against Pittsburgh. Week 1.
That's right.
They're going in to prove a point. They're going to run the score up if they can.
Yep.
I just think, like you said, they're going to pass it a lot. Yep. And who's the 2 guys that's going to benefit from them? Well, Tyler Boyd's one of them. So I think he has has a good game. And the other one I like, I hate to choose boomer bust guys, but I'm going Gabe Davis this week.
I do too.
He had after 2 bad games, he had a good game last week. He had 10 targets, got a touchdown. They moved this game to the Dome, which we've said several times, which helps him out a whole lot. He probably wouldn't have been maybe even got a catch if they'd have played that outside game. But anyway, I think I'm going to ride him. Like I said, I hate putting boomer bust guys on these lists because you just never know from. But I just have a good feeling about Gabe Davis this week.
I like him. I like him this week a lot too against Cleveland, who's not the best.
They're not that good,
defense, And I think that's a great pick also. Moving on to our sits at wide receiver. For me this week, shocker here, coming off a couple of decent weeks, the last couple of weeks, but it's going to be DJ Moore. And, it really sucks because, honestly, he has a really decent matchup on paper against Baltimore. He's going to draw Marlon Humphrey, who's a good cover corner, but DJ Moore's a better wide receiver. But this is sheer just based off the fact that Baker Mayfield's going to start.
Guess who's back?
Yeah,
Baker's
PJ Walker,
back.
high ankle sprain. I think they put him on IR, which is devastating for DJ Moore owners because that was the only success that DJ Moore had was when PJ Walker was in at quarterback. Now we got Baker Mayfield back in there, and I bet it goes back to more of the same like last week when Baker came in. 6 targets, 4 catches for 29 yards. So even though it's a good matchup for Baltimore against Baltimore for DJ Moore, I don't want none of it because Baker's back, and I don't want anything to do with Baker Mayfield. So that's my sit for wide receiver this week.
I had DJ Moore too, but I had a feeling you was going to pick him, so I put another one on there just in case. So I got Adam Thielen. Ever since T.J. Hawkinson's came in, he's not done. He's not done a whole lot. So I'll just throw that out there. But yes, DJ Moore is my sit because of 2 words,
That's
Baker
right.
Mayfield.
Yep, that's exactly right. And so we're going to go and move on to our sleeper wide receiver. Mine that I picked just got a lot better because I just got news on my phone that Juju Smith-Schuster has been ruled out for this weekend. And my sleeper is going to be Kadarius Toney playing at the Chargers. Not the best matchup because the Chargers are 12th against the wide receiver, but I believe that's probably against some of the, which, I mean, I guess technically Tony's probably going to be – it's either going to be MVS is going to be the 1, Tony's going to be the 2, or Tony's going to be the wide receiver 1, and MVS will be the 2. Either way, they're scheming offensively for Kadarius Toney. Last week, had several decent catches, looked really electric when he did play. Didn't play as much as I really thought he was going to, but did play a fair amount. 44% of the snaps, but 5 targets, 4 catches for 57 yards and a touchdown. But then he also got 2 how many carries? Hang on. Where's
he got a couple of carries,
2 carries for 33 yards. So anytime you see some rushing attempts for a wide receiver out of a team like Kansas City, who's got a, offensive guru in Andy Reid, he knows who his playmakers are, and he's going to get on the ball in creative ways. And I feel like he feels like that with Kadarius Toney. And then also, honestly, it's the way that Travis Kelce has been talking him up on his podcast. I don't really listen to his podcast, but I've seen some excerpts on some comments that he's made about Kadarius Toney. And he pretty much said, I don't know how in the world you let a guy like Kadarius Toney out of the building to be traded to another team because of his talent and ability. And if Travis Kelce's saying that on a team that's been extremely talented with Patrick Mahomes, with a coach like Andy Reid, I just like at first I wasn't too crazy, too many mouths to feed, but now with Mecole Hardman on IR, Juju Smith-Schuster ruled out, you pretty much got Kelce, and then you got Toney. I mean, and it's the Chiefs' offense against a banged-up Chargers defense. I think this is just a great recipe. It'll probably be terrible because I think it just looks too good, but I'm picking him as my sleeper. I really like him this week.
And by the time the playoffs get here and everybody gets healthy, this is going to be a scary team. They're already scary, but man, at the talent they have on this team. Definitely. Well, and another thing with that, I like that pick, and I almost put it, but I was kind of waiting to see what happened with Juju. But MVS might not play.
Yeah.
He's questionable too.
Yep.
Which makes even more curious. And if he had 50%, I think he said 50% of he played on 50% of the plays last year.
44%.
You put him in,
yeah,
okay,
44%.
44. You put him on 60 to 80%.
That's right.
I mean, you don't know what this guy might do. I liked him last year.
Yeah.
You know, after that huge game he had, but he just couldn't stay on the field.
Yeah. But could he not stay on the field because he wasn't healthy? Or could he not stay on the field because they just didn't want to play it? Because that's what he was saying. He was healthy. When he was traded, he said he told the Giants he was healthy, and they said he was not.
Well, I can tell you what, I've seen a lot of stuff, and they say that the turf that the Giants play on is the worst turf. So to get away from that is the best thing for him.
That's right. And
playing
also,
on grass in KC.
And I know you're waiting to see Juju out, but to me personally, I think Mecole Hardman being put on IR was the biggest boost for his value, because I think he's going to completely step into Mecole Hardman's role, where they were kind of using him as that Tyreek Hill light, where he'd get those running plays, he'd get those kind of gadget wide receiver screens out to the side, I think he steps into that role. But with Juju being out also, it just boosts it.
Yeah, that's like 10 targets when Juju's out.
Yeah. So I like him as a sleeper a lot. So, but who was your sleeper? That was
my sleeper was a guy you already talked about, Rondale Moore.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He had 13 targets last week.
Yep.
He caught 9 of them. Zach Ertz is out. I mean, I think he gets most of those carries.
I mean, I was searching for some starts, because there's so many good wide receivers on bye this week, and I like several of them, but I was really looking for some that feel like shoe-ins, and I like him a lot this week also. So, but we're going to move on to our starts at tight end. This is a guy that you kind of talked about a little bit at the beginning of the show in your recap, and
I have the same guy.
Yeah, I figured you would. I'm going to say you need to be starting Cole Kmet at Atlanta, 24th against the tight end, turning into their biggest red zone threat in Chicago. And now he is a little banged up, but I think they're going to manage it okay. I have not got an update today. Let me look just to make sure live here that, let's see, no injury designation, practiced in full today. So there you go. He's going to be good to go for the weekend. And they're involving him more in the offense like they did in the preseason, which is what a lot of us thought was going to be the whole year. And 5 touchdowns in the past 3 weeks. I don't know what else you want, in a tight end, in an injury-riddled tight end position this year. I like Cole Kmet this week at Atlanta. So, and you said you had the same, Josh. So what do you want to add to it?
I'm going to ride the hot hand.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, we like Cole Kmet, and honestly, he's available in a lot of leagues.
Yeah,
not
I like
as
him for
many,
the rest of the year.
Not as many before waivers, but I like him a lot the rest of the year with Justin Fields playing hot. So, we're going to move on to our sits at tight end, and for me, this is going to been a popular one all year, and he's ranked extremely high. I'm guessing because he's been getting a fair amount of targets the last couple of weeks, but he hadn't done anything with them. And he's got a tougher matchup this week, and that's going to be Kyle Pitts playing at home against Chicago. What else do I need to say? Dude's averaging like 2-3 catches a game right now. He's been getting some more targets than he's been used to. But last week, 8 targets, 2 catches, 28 yards. I mean, they're targets, but are they viable, good targets? I mean,
I've seen some of those passes. They're nowhere close to him.
I have not watched enough Atlanta Falcons film, honestly, to tell you if
they're not hitting him in the hands. I can promise you that.
He's 6'6", 246, and he can catch the ball. So if you're throwing him the ball 8 times and he's only catching 2 of them, something tells me they're probably not great passes. And then the week before, 7 targets, 2 catches, 27 yards. All right. And these are against tight end attacking teams like the Chargers and Carolina. So this week he's playing against Chicago, who is 5th against tight ends in the league. So I know he's getting volume. I just don't like him this week against Chicago. And honestly, Chicago's going to run the ball. They're going to shorten the game. Atlanta's going to run the ball. They're going to shorten the game. So what you're going to get is a very shortened, time of possession in general, because when you got two teams that are run heavy, the game's going to be like less than 3 hours because the clock's going to run the whole freaking game because they're constantly going to be running the ball. And I just don't see a lot of opportunity for them there. I think this is going to be one of those 14-10 games or something like that. And the touchdowns are probably going to be from the running backs. That's just what I see. That's what I think. But anyway, that's my sit at tight end this week. Who do you not like this week, Josh?
This guy's not done much all year either. Dawson Knox.
Yep.
He's not been real good in fantasy this year. And Cleveland, they're actually pretty good against tight ends.
Yep.
Fifth fewest points to tight ends.
Right.
So that's a pretty easy call right there.
Yep. I like it. And then moving on to our sleepers at tight end. And honestly, as far as rankings and sleepers go, there was a couple sleepers that I could have picked. But my favorite this week is going to be Tyler Conklin playing at New England, coming off, I believe, let's see. Yeah, coming off his bye week. But before his bye week, kind of had a dud, but had a couple decent games right before that dud, before his bye week. But he's going up against a New England team who he had a great game against in Week 8. Week 8, he played against New England, 10 targets, 6 catches, 79 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Playing New England at New England this week. New England is 27th against the tight end, and that's pretty much the best way to attack New England's with your tight ends. And I think they're going to go back to Tyler Conklin again this week. I like him a lot as a sleeper at tight end. So, who do you like as a sleeper this week at tight end there, Josh?
I'm going with former LSU Tiger, Foster Moreau. The job is his for the next several weeks.
Yep.
He's actually last year he had some pretty good games whenever he was a starter. So
that's right.
Hey, he's another one. If you need a fill-in tight end or you don't have one that you like.
He was one of those other sleepers that could have been, that could be this week. I looked at him also. A lot of volume in that offense.
Who knows if he don't end up playing the rest of the year as a starter? If they're losing, why would you even bring the other one?
Darren Waller.
I forget. Waller. He's got a history of injuries. You don't have a chance to make the playoffs. Why would you even want to bring him back?
That's exactly right. And you got Hunter Renfrow on IR also, losing pass catcher there. Honestly, Adams has been getting volume out the roof, but Adams has got his own injury designation right now with an abdominal injury. He's been limited all week. I don't know if it's just a sheer fact they're trying to protect him, but he had 14 targets last week, 17 targets the week before. And if for something to happen to him, I think that boosts Foster Moreau's value up even more because he's got the most chemistry of any pass catcher on that team with Derek Carr.
And he might be the healthiest guy on the team.
That's exactly right. So I like that sleeper a lot. And then we're going to roll on to our kickers. Obviously this is just kind of one of those positions where it's like a dart throw. There are some factors like weather and, scoring ability, that we take into account. But my favorite kicker this week, and probably one of my favorites for the rest of the year, is going to be Brett Maher, kicking for Dallas. He's going to be kicking at Minnesota this week. It's in a dome. He's passes by. I think he's somebody you pick up and throw in your lineup. His home field is in a dome. So I think he's somebody you pick up and put in your lineup for the rest of the year and don't even worry about it. He's at this point with a bye week thrown in, he's the 9th best kicker in the league as far as fantasy points. So I like Brett Maher a lot this week. And then my sit-at kicker, I'm just going to roll through my start, sit, sleeper, and I'll let you do the same, Josh.
Right.
My sit-at kicker this week is going to be Evan McPherson for Cincinnati. I do expect Cincinnati to play well, and I expect them to score the ball a fair amount. But they're going to be at Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh, because they allow so many touchdowns, is 11th against the kicker. So the only thing McPherson's going to be getting is extra points. But also, with this time of the year, Pittsburgh tends to have some worse weather for kicking than a lot of other places in NFL. And I just think that makes it even more of a chance for Evan McPherson to miss a couple of those extra points that he has a chance for. And I just don't like Evan McPherson this week at Pittsburgh. And then my sleeper is going to be one of the fan favorites in Will Lutz playing at home against the Rams in the Dome because the Rams defensive line is so good. They stop a lot of people in the red zone, which gives up a lot of field goals to their team. They're 24th 25th for the kickers in fantasy. And Will Lutz is in the Dome kicking the ball. So what else do you not like? Not to mention our red zone offense has not been exactly the greatest this year. So I like Will Lutz as a sleeper this week in the Dome against the Rams. So who do you like at start, sit, sleeper for your kickers there, Josh?
Well, as a start, I was going to go with Graham Gano, but I just saw where he has an illness and may not play.
Oh Lord,
he's actually been pretty good this year.
Yes, he is.
I think he's a top 5 kicker, and the Giants they seem to kick a lot of field goals.
I'll help you out real quick live here, Josh. They just came out with a statement 17 minutes ago for Graham Gano. Graham Gano is slated to play Sunday. Doesn't carry an injury designation heading into Sunday's game. So you're good to go.
Some bad food then, huh?
Yep.
Just had some bad food.
Yep.
Well, I wasn't going to go with Gano. I was going to go with who do you think? Koo.
Yep, young Oku. I like him too.
We went with him most weeks this week. One of us have. So
I mean,
you can always throw him in if you need a kicker. But so my sit this week is going to be Chase McLaughlin for the Colts. He's got the second fewest points in the NFL from a kicker.
Yep.
And they're going against a Philadelphia defense. I don't think I need to say much more about that.
Nope.
And for my sleeper, this guy was like 10 or 11. I'm kind of surprised he was that low, but I'm going with Folk for the New England.
Yep.
And it might be because of weather, but the last time he played the Jets, he had 5 field goals.
Yep. And also he's coming off a bye, so he's probably another reason, his points are a little bit lower coming off a bye. But I like that pick a lot. I actually have him in a couple of my leagues. I picked him up this week coming off the bye. Some people had dropped him. I like him a lot.
I picked him up too, and I hope he gets those 5 field goals again.
Yeah, and honestly,
I'm afraid of the weather because I know it's coming down, so I don't know if it'll be there or not.
And I believe he's been, he was in the Jets. He played for the Jets for a couple of years, but he's been in the Patriots system for a while, I believe. And let me see. Let me pull it up here. He's been in New England for 4 years. So if anybody knows
the
how
weather,
that's exactly right. If anybody knows how to kick in New England at this time of the year, it's going to be Nick Folk. And before that, he was in Tampa Bay. But then before that, he was played for the Jets for 9 years. And they don't.
He's been around the league for a long time, man.
Oh yeah. He's been in the league for 15 years. But they don't exactly have the best weather in New York this time.
No. So he's used to that cold, windy weather.
Right. And he's the number 4 kicker in fantasy right now. Great choice. And he's after his bye. And New England has a long history of good kickers, as we know.
Oh, they do.
So I think that's a great pickup for the rest of the year, personally. And then we'll move on to our defenses. And last but certainly not least, some of these could win you your league. I mean, win you your week this week. And my favorite is going to be Baltimore playing against Baker Mayfield. I mean, what else do you need to say? Defense playing against Baker Mayfield, who has been extremely underwhelming, and just Carolina's offense in general has looked not great under Baker Mayfield's, leadership. And also Baltimore's defense has gotten a lot better ever since they added Roquan Smith from Chicago. Really good at run stopping, which has helped their secondary out because I don't think they have to put as many people in the box. They still got Patrick Queen there running all over the field like a crazy person, running people down. So I like Baltimore, and I like Baltimore's defense for the rest of the year. I think they get back to the.
Well, I was just fixing to say that. I picked up Baltimore in every league I have and kept them. because the rest of if you look at their schedule for the rest of the year, they might have the best schedule for a defense. So if they're out there in anybody's league, you need to pick them up because you can start them for the rest of the year, even into the playoffs, without having to worry about swapping anybody out.
Yep, I like it. What about your defense to start there, Josh?
Well, Eagles. I mean, I guess that's kind of stupid because everybody's going to put the Eagles in there.
Yeah, but I mean, if that's your pick, if you got daily fantasy and you're trying to decide what best defense should I start, I think you should start the Eagles. That's exactly right.
I think they're coming in mad after that loss. They're going to take it out they're taking it out on the Colts. And not only that, I don't know if he'll play or not, but they picked up Ndamukong Suh.
If he does, it's going to be minimal. But yes, I think down the stretch that's
to help
be
against
huge.
The run because
I think
they've been run on a little bit, over the last couple of games, and they're like, no, we want to win the Super Bowl. We're going to find out our weaknesses, and we're going to stop it. So
exactly,
yeah, I'm going to go. I think the Eagles are coming in.
I expect
angry.
I expect them to find a tight end that's not playing right now.
Oh, they got.
I don't know because Dallas Goedert went down. I don't know who it's going to be, but somebody's practice squad tight end that's pretty decent or something. They're going to find a wily veteran looking to try to get a chance at a Super Bowl. I don't think it'll be Gronk, unfortunately, but I think there's going to be a tight end somewhere out there that either recently retired or just hasn't been in the league, didn't get signed. But
I don't think this is being talked about enough. This is a huge injury. There's games where he led the team in targets.
Yep, that's exactly right.
He was a big part of this offense, and I think that is a big loss.
I think that's going to be some big. It's going to be big to see who fills in that void.
I mean, you think it's got to be A.J. Brown getting more, but he's kind of banged up too.
Yeah, and I don't know if he does more than what he does already. It could be Devontae Smith, but like I said, I think they might start searching for somebody that they can plug in there that, like I said, we just have kind of forgotten about, or a veteran that did not get signed that's in the waiting or that's on a practice squad somewhere that they can pick up off another team.
Well, they don't want your typical blocking tight end. They want somebody that can get out and catch the ball.
That's exactly right. So I'm curious to see if they go out and get somebody like that. But moving on to our sit at defense, for me, it's kind of a hard sit, but it's a little bit against what you were saying. But I'm sitting Denver's defense against Las Vegas this week, just for the fact that Las Vegas has been losing, but they've still been putting up some points. Denver's playing better, but their offense has been so terrible. They're on the field a lot. I think it's going to be. There wasn't a lot of defenses I really didn't like this week, but Las Vegas, Derek Carr's been playing. Like I said, I picked him as a sit last week. He put up some points. He did better. They don't have as many weapons in Vegas as we've talked about, but also Denver's coaching is just, I don't know what's going on there. I really don't. And I don't trust it. At Denver, I feel like it's a trap game because it seems like it's a really good start for Denver at home against Las Vegas, but I don't know. I just got one of them gut feelings. I don't like Denver's defense against Las Vegas at home this week. That's all I can really say about it. Just another one of those gut feelings that I want to go against. And I don't like them this week at Las Vegas. At Denver. So what about you, Josh? Who do you not like this week on defense?
Well, I talked about the Eagles a while ago, so I got to go with the Colts. I feel like the same thing about their defense. I was saying I could say about their offense. I think their offense is going to come in to prove a point also.
Yep.
And I think they put up a lot of points. So, and the Colts defense has actually not been that bad.
It hasn't been, but they've lost a couple key contributors. That's right.
Should be getting worse. They're probably going to be on the downward spiral here.
I feel that exact same way, honestly. So I think that's a good pick to sit. And then sleeper at defense for me, I think this is a little bit. I think they're going to right the ship this year toward the end of the season for them, and that's going to be Washington's defense this week playing at Houston. We all know Davis Mills in Houston. They turned the ball over a fair amount actually, so they're a good team to start your defense against. They're 24th in the league against DST, and also Washington gets back Chase Young, their star defensive end. They get him back this week playing against Houston, and he wreaks havoc on offenses and offensive lines and quarterbacks. So I like Washington, and they actually have not been too terrible the last couple weeks as far as their defense goes. They've actually been pretty decent. So I like them a lot. But also another thing that really works in their favor that I think is that the game script for both of these teams, they like to run the ball a lot, both of them. And that's just going to shorten the game. That's going to make it better for defenses. The defenses are going to get, they're not going to have to play as long, but also shorten the game. And I think Washington has a good chance to control the clock because they got – I do like Dameon Pierce better than their two running backs at Washington, but I think Washington's got two more – they got more good running backs than Houston. So I feel like Washington's going to be able to control the clock a little bit more, give their defense a little bit longer of a break than Houston's going to get. But I like Washington's defense a lot at Houston this week. And what about you? What's sleeper defense do you like this week there, Josh?
I got to Washington too. I thought they looked a lot better against Philly last week, and they're playing arguably the worst team in NFL possibly. So, hey, they ought to have a better game this week.
Yeah, and actually the last 5 weeks, they have actually been pretty solid with a floor of around 8 or 9 points, depending on how the scoring goes in your league. But they've been getting to the quarterback a fair amount and generating a fair amount of turnovers. In those weeks, they've got 7 fumble recoveries and 3 interceptions and a touchdown, and a fair amount of sacks. It looks like 5, 7, 9, 10 sacks in those weeks, and they're getting Chase Young back, who creates a lot of, like I said, a lot of that chaos that causes those turnovers. So,
they're going to need him, to help stop that run, and because that's about all Houston can do.
Not only that, if you pick them up and play them this week against Houston, guess who they have in Week 12? Atlanta at home in Washington. So, I mean, you got a pretty startable defense, no problem, right there, back-to-back weeks. So Washington could be a really good pickup. And they're ranked 10th in as far as defense goes on the year, and they're only owned in like 48% of leagues. So they should be out there. So go pick them up. But that's going to pretty much round out our start sits and sleepers part for Week 11. We appreciate everybody listening. Please go out, like, subscribe, download, and rate us on your streaming app of choice, whether it be Castbox, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Play, whatever you like to use for your podcast. Please go out there and subscribe, download, and like us, and give us some ratings. If you can, reach out and give some feedback, some things you want to hear more about, or things you don't want to hear more about on the podcast. And good luck in Week 11, and we'll be coming back to you after Week 11 after Week 11 rounds out and hitting you up with our usual stuff afterward. So we appreciate everybody out there listening, and good luck.
This ain't how it's supposed to be. It should be just you and me.